Hey everyone, welcome back to Palmetto Zoo. My name is Wix, and today we're gonna build a grizzly bear habitat and some backstage realism for my zoo. So let's get into it and check it out. Welcome back to Palmetto Zoo, everyone. It's been a few weeks, but we are back, and we are building in the wild north area today. A few people have been requested a grizzly bear habitat, so that's what we are doing today. And as you can see, we are getting fully into it right away, where I am terraining around here and trying to make some habitats. Today we are inspired by the Teton Trek from Memphis Zoo and the Great Ape Gallery from Houston Zoo. I have not been in either of them, but I have been looking at Pinterest and Google Maps to kind of like get this sort of vibe out as I want to. So it is a very challenging for me this time because there's some stuff that just didn't work very well, but eventually we figure it all out. I'm also doing a little bit of backstage stuff, which you guys will see eventually in the video. And then, yeah, we are just gonna go straight into it here, as you can see, and build some stuff. So as I said, the habitat is inspired by the Teton Trek from Detroit. And instead of having this big cabin on a hill in the back and stuff, I kind of wanted this water flow going around the habitat, which has like these waterfalls. And I really think that that is a great habitat, and I really think that it's getting like has this very natural environment, natural look when I'm done with it. Unfortunately, the bears will not be able to go into the water, which is a shame, but I think we can manage and just make them pretend that they do, because my whole point too here was to have a little like water underneath the terrain we already terrained, and then kind of like have them in different levels so the habitat looks bigger and more depth into it as well. So as you can see, adding some water flow here now, and it's really looking amazing, guys, when it's done. And I think once again this is one of my favorite habitats in the whole Palmetto Zoo, because it really just have this super nice vibe, natural environment, and it looks pretty realistic too, if I have to say so myself. But yeah, we are adding a lot of these rock boulders walls at the back here, and then I'm just kind of like going at it with adding different kind of rocks everywhere and just trying to make the habitat look amazing. It's mainly just the vibe from Teton Trek with the water going through, and then the rest of it is kind of like just improvising and see what. Does it look good, or where are we here, and what should I add more of, and stuff like that. It's also very, it's a different way I'm building this. I usually build the fence and then I do the habitat. But today I felt inspired, you know, so I feel like, why don't I start with the habitat, and then afterwards we can figure out what we kind of want to do around the habitat. And I have a lot of these photos that I've shown you here in the video, where I take inspiration from and kind of like how my mind works when I get all these things. So I had all these pictures, these 3 pictures from different zoos, and I kind of was like, why don't I just try to combine these things in one habitat and see where it takes me? And it actually won't work very well out in the end. So yeah, but as I say, it's not the whole video that is about the habitat. We have about a little bit of the end there too, where I'm doing some backstage realism for once. You haven't seen me do that much, and as many of you know, that I am not the best. It's not my forte in that sense, but what I did get built, I'm actually pretty proud of, and I'm stoked to show it to you all. And let me know what you guys think in the comments, and if you have any suggestions on how things should work in a zoo. Also, you can see I had a little bit of struggle with how the bears could roam around, like traverse into the area here, because I really don't know what the issue were, because I had to put one on the other side and then have one there, and in some way or another they managed to breed and get a bear cub, which were quite interesting since they can't really go to each other. But hey, we got one, and that will be able to roam around as well, the little baby bear cub, as you guys can see. But yeah, I'm just in general very happy for this whole habitat here. It has like the vibe, it has like greenery, it's just awesome. I do not know where this picture is from specifically, but this is kind of like what I wanted to build here around the habitat. This kind of like wooden forest, kind of north wild, like wild north kind of vibe. And I feel like it turned out very, very nice as well. As you can see, again, I'm making these dots to the window, so the window will be easy to switch out when eventually it broke or just need a good polish, something like that. It's just very important to keep that in mind. But yeah, I feel like this was kind of nice for this habitat, so I felt like, why don't we just try build it and see how it looks. And that's what I love about these games, is that you can find 3 or 4 pictures, 3 or 4 references, inspiration from Google Maps, Pinterest, ArtStation even, I don't know, and you could combine them all in one go. So that's why I'm saying, like, I have a lot of influence on, well, Palmetto has a lot of influence in a lot of zoos around the world. I have not been to 90% of them, but the pictures really tells me and shows me how the environment, how the vibe is, and that's kind of like what I'm trying to do. As you can see, I did this wall here around the whole habitat, and I just duplicated them all the way around. And I was like, there's no need for you guys to see it all. So it was just a 3 thing you saw. And then afterwards, I'm going back into the habitat to kind of like try to make it more natural and put a little bit more foliage around here and there. Because, you know, sometimes it's just nice. Foliage really just ups up the entire habitat. So I was not really, like, rest of it is really much improvising at the end here. When I finally have a vision, how can you say, in my head about how I want this habitat to look, I like relax a little bit more. Then I'm like, okay, we have something here. Now let's just go in and add a few details here and there, and then eventually it's all gonna go very well. So now when I'm kind of like done with the habitat, I don't feel like going back there because it was kind of good what I have. I'm doing this little great ape gallery from Houston, and this is used for normally apes. I don't know how it looks inside, but I feel like it could be a very cool transition into the bears' kind of like hiding quarters, sleeping quarters, the grotto, as I end up calling this, the Grizzly Grotto. You will see that eventually. But I felt like it kind of had this super nice vibe to it, and it mingled and matched a lot throughout the entire Wild North area that I'm building here, with the mooses, the wolverines, and yeah, it's just super nice, and I'm very happy for how this turned out, because it's a really nice addition, and it really opens up and closes the area a lot. And I'm just in general super happy for how this whole Wild North area is looking. I did not expect it to look like this, but I'm a big fan, and I think it's super cool already now that much of this area is kind of done. And that's also kind of like what I'm trying to do with the backstage stuff, but I will tell you when we get there, because it's a lot of progress I'm doing in this video, honestly. And someone in the chats and Discord and the comments has mentioned that it would be cool to have a grizzly bear habitat, I felt like, all right, let's go in and make one. And the turnout came out incredible. I love it. And I just love the animals we have here. We have the grizzly bears, as I said now. We got the wolverines, we got the otters, and we got the mooses. This is really represented the Wild North. Will we add a 5th? It is not my plan, but let's see if we get further into the project here, and if we feel like we need one more animal up here. Who knows? Maybe we'll get one in a new DLC pack that we will hopefully get very soon in this game. I kind of need one. I want one. I'm craving a new thing here in Planet Zoo, so it would be awesome to see if we got anything that I could put up here in this area. Otherwise, we still have the wolves. We have some deers. Maybe we can even like use the reindeers, even if that's a thing. Like, that would be a cool little extra thing to have up here. But yeah. But as you can see, I showed you guys the picture of this little thing, and I'm just trying to make it as authentic and as real to the picture as possible. So I'm making this little drain, this little gutter, and then afterwards we're kind of like just detailing a few bits here and there afterwards. And I think this is such a cool build in general, like just the whole concept of like having this on top and then you go under it into this whole thing. I really think it's dope. So I'm not super, like, how do you say, I don't know much how bear enclosures look in this sense of like having the realism, like where do they even go when they're not in their habitat. So I felt like, okay, I looked at one video on YouTube. I didn't get a good look, but they were kind of like in cages in a way. Not a lot of room. It didn't feel so good. So I felt like, what if I just do a little square here, let them come through the habitat in here, and then they can kind of like roam around in here instead and kind of like relax. Of course, it's only the only bear that can do that, since the other one will not reach here. But that doesn't matter. You'll still be able to see a bear in there. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. And as you can see here, just adding a lot of mesh and a lot of iron and metal, so we can kind of like get it enclosed, so the bears won't leave the property, or kind of like the habitat in a sense. And yeah, I think it looks super cool here. You can see I'm doing some custom plaster on here, just covering up the ground, the path, so we don't have any holes in it, and it really adds up. So this is here. I'm also doing the back of the habitat. Here is where I do starting the backstage realism, and I'm very happy for how it turned out, as I said, but we will get to that section in just a few minutes. Right now we are finishing off this little enclosure here for the bears to go in and sleep, and then I'm just kind of like adding some beddys, some beds, some hay, some leaves, just so they can get in and sleep. And then I do a few things, like a little bit of a little room for the keepers to go in, but I did not record that, so you guys will end up seeing that on the cinematic. But yeah, the more I actually added to the habitat, the more it actually turned out to look like a very realistic habitat. And I think that's what I like about this, is that it might not always look where you want it, but the more you add, the better it gets. So yeah, I'm super stoked on how this turned out so far. And as you can see, I'm really trying my best here to cover up the things that is not related, that's not really important. So yeah, so we are just trying to add the things here inside of where their little grotto cave is, as I'm calling it. And that's pretty much what I do in here. I don't do much else besides giving it some walls so you can't see through. And yeah, that's pretty much what happens in here. As I said, I do not know how a bear like backstage look in this sense, but I'm kind of like just winging most of them, but I feel kind of confident about it. I think it's good. At least there's something to represent the realistic and realism aspects in this, and also in the whole zoo in general, especially when we add the backstage stuff. That's gonna really pop up and make it look super dope. Yeah, I think it's one of the coolest things so far I've done here, and you can definitely tell that I put a little bit more research into it, because I looked at a lot of Google Maps, parking lots and backstage lots from different zoos, Copenhagen Zoo, from Zoo Tampa. And as you know, most of this zoo is pretty much based upon those two zoos in a sense. But mainly I'm trying to wing it and give it my own kind of touch and vibe, and mainly just take inspiration and references from other zoos as well to one big zoo, as you saw here. So we're making the roof up here, and I felt like, why don't I add a little window so we get some nice natural light in here as well for the bears. And I think it looked really nice, especially using this little twilight panels here to kind of like cover up the most. And then we're using kind of like a door, but it actually looks like a window too if you turn it around. And I think we did it pretty good here. And I love how the roof is kind of like elevated on top of this. it really gives it that like wooden contemporary feeling, and I love that. That's kind of like my goal in the first place, to kind of like have all these things included as much as possible. And yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much what we've been doing in this video, as you guys can see. And then afterwards, I'm adding a few dirt mud mounts on top here, and kind of like making it's looking like it's with foliage and covered up with grass and trees and all that stuff. So yeah, it's really great. It's awesome. So if we are going back here, so now it is where I am writing the Grizzly Grotto. I felt like that sounded kind of cool. And I know when they only go into winters and kind of like sleep most of their time there. But I felt like the Grizzly Grotto was kind of like a cool name. It fitted well, and it gets you in to see the bears closer in their sleeping quarters, and I think that was pretty cool. I do not remember where I saw this from. I think I saw it in a zoo tour I did once, where someone did these little gravel mounts here, where you just terrain a little bit and color it, and it looks like a sand, where you can take sand from and you put a little shovel in it and stuff like that, and it actually works out incredibly good. So I can't really remember who gave me that idea or who I saw it from, but great idea, and I am going to borrow it in my own little zoo here, because I thought that was a very nice addition to have this here, and it really adds up a lot of realism to as well to the backstage. We will not finish the whole backstage today. That will be something I can work on like once in a while, because it has not the biggest priority for me, but it does look nice afterwards when I get it all done here. So I'm literally just doing a big building, as you guys know, and in this building we're gonna have our water facilities and our power stuff, and I'll adding a little staff building too, so the guests will actually walk in here. Oh no, not the guests, sorry. So the staff will actually walk in here, so it feels like they're walking in the backstage. So yeah, I'm really happy for how this little area turned out, and it also helps me enclosure the entire zoo as I want it. We're getting close on the right side to kind of like have the whole wall around, and I feel like if I do that, it will give me a better overview, and it will make me not build bigger than I actually intended to, and keep this zoo as a small cozy little zoo, which it kind of is already, though we have like a lot of animals now, and the jump from the wild north to Australia and to the main part of the zoo is a pretty good walk, but the more things we're gonna add, the less it will feel like. So as you guys can see here, adding a little bit of wall, and it's slowly getting together with the other wall I have from the entrance. But that you guys will see that here later on in the series, how we are connecting those two parts together. So yeah, we have the sand mount here, and now I'm gonna do a little soil over here too, and then afterwards we're gonna put a little shovel in as well, as I said, and make it all look like it's they're taken from this to the other habitats. So here I'm doing a little like no parking zone or only dropping zone kind of thing, a little hazard stripes. So you know that here you can't just, you have to be careful here. You have to be on your marks here, because this is really like how it works backstage. You have these things there you can't park at. This is mainly drop-off zones or stuff like that. You have to keep these free all the time, and that's kind of like what I do. There's a little parking spots here from the back of the building too. I used the pathing in general, the asphalt pathing, just to do this pretty much, and then I just color up stuff on it and etc. And you can see we're really starting to get a super cool backstage to the grizzly bears here. And I'm just adding a lot more foliage on top there, and adding a few animal doors, and just trying to make this feel like it's supposed to feel like a backstage realism building, where everything else works, like the water facilities, the power engines, and all that stuff. As you can see, I also connected that. And I felt like I wanted to make it look a little bit prettier too, so it's not just boring backstage. So I felt like putting this little curb on, do this little gravel mount that I got from Leaves workshop. You guys can also get it as well. Yeah, you should go grab it. It's a very nice extra piece if you want to do a little bit extra stuff on the path or on the ground, and it really just adds up nicely. I gotta say, it's really nice. As you can see here, adding a little palm trees, and then afterwards I'm going to steal it and kind of like add it into the ground here, as you can see. And then afterwards I mix it up with some dirt mounts, so it really gets this super cool like busy look without even being it, but it just works very well. And I'm doing that here too. And then afterwards we're kind of like slowly done with our little backstage area here. I want to do some gateways too to get in here from the road. That's we also gonna work on. We're gonna make a little beach on the right side and make a little more inner city on the left. That's where I'm getting all my patrons and community members to help me. And maybe you can too if you join the Discord and you have some cool pieces you want me to use or builds. Let me know. I'm looking for forklifts right now and stuff like that, and I know someone has made them because I featured them in Blueprint Bonanza. But yeah, maybe there's more. And as you can see here, doing a little custom box here that like should most likely be just be a scenery piece for stuff, you know, like connecting powers and stuff like that. And it really works very well here, honestly. If I gotta admit it. I love that we got all these small pieces in Planet Zoo. It really makes it easier to build, and sometimes you're like, it's gonna take forever, but then you work on it like 10-15 minutes and boom, you're pretty much done. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this whole backstage area, and I think I did a pretty good job. What do you think? You think I did good? Let me know in the comments down below, guys. And yeah, let me know what you think would be a cool addition to this area if we had to get a 5th animal. So let me know, yeah. And just doing the last pieces here to the puzzle, and then we're pretty much done, friends. Adding some decals on the ground here and a sec to kind of like make it look like it's kind of broken and old and stuff. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed this Palmetto video, guys, and my little build here. Let me know what you think, and subscribe for more content. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.